Okay, so we have this new message form right here, which is responsible for taking new messages, including the message itself, the content, the name and the timestamp, up to a new document in our Firestore database. So let's hook this up so it does that. So in our new message component right here, we want to edit this function. This is where we'll be interacting with the database and adding that new record. So first of all, we want to check to make sure the user has indeed entered something into this new message field right here. So we want to make sure that this is not null and it is a truthy value. So we'll say if, and then we want to check this dot new message. Okay, so if this has a message, if it's not null, then we'll save it to the database in here. Else, if it doesn't have a message, if it's still null, the user's not typed something in yet, we'll provide them with some feedback. So we'll say this.feedback and set that equal to something like you must enter a message in order to send one. All right, we also need to define this feedback property right here and set it to null to begin with. Then we want to output this as well to the browser. So underneath the input form, we'll do a p tag, give this a class of red-text, and we also want to set this to a v-if and set that equal to feedback. This will make sure that as long as feedback is null, then this won't show because null is a falsy value. And when we get a message in feedback, then it will show because the message will be a truthy value. Okay, so then we output the feedback right here. Okay, so let's save this and test it out. If I now press enter without entering anything, we get that feedback right here. Cool. All right then, so now we want to interact with the database right here. The first thing we need to do is import that database into this file. Now we set that up in one of the first lessons inside this init folder over here, where we exported the Firestore here. So we can import it from this file. We'll do that at the top over here. We'll say import db, you can call this what you want, from, and it's from @/firebase/init. So that's this file right here. Okay, so we have that database reference. Now in here we can interact with that database and add this new document. So we do that by saying db.collection. Now this will get us a reference to a particular collection. But what collection is this? Well, in our Firestore at the minute, we don't actually have a collection set up, but that's fine. We don't need to set one up. If we type in a collection right here, like messages, if that's what we want the collection to be called, when we go to add a new document, if this does not exist, the Firestore is going to look at it and say, okay, well, I will create this collection for you, and then I'll add this document. So that's cool. So we want to add a document onto this, and this method takes in a parameter, which is the document object. So what different properties does this object have? Well, it's going to have the name, the content, and the timestamp. So first of all, the content is going to be this.new message. That's this thing right here, which is hooked up to the import via this v model. All right. So the next one is the name, and that is received into this component as a prop right here. So we can just say this.name, and then finally the timestamp, which is going to be date.now, and that will get the time now in milliseconds. Okay, so this is an asynchronous request. It takes some time to do, and it returns a promise. So we could tack on a .then method here if we wanted to, but we don't really need to do that. We don't want to redirect them once this is done or anything like that, but we can also tack on a .catch method to catch any kind of error and pass this through to a function, and then we can just log this to the console in case there is one. All right, so let's try this out. If I go over here and enter in a new message like, hey, press enter, then nothing happens over here. But if we go over here now and refresh the database, then now we can see this new messages collection right here and this document as well. Awesome, so this is working. But there's just a couple of things I'd like to do. So first of all, I'd like to make it so that when you press enter over here, it deletes this field again so that we don't have to manually delete it if we want to enter in a new message. So let's do that first of all. After this, we'll say this.new message is then equal to null. So it resets this thing right here to null, which therefore will update the value of this input field as well. Also, I'd like to set the feedback to null as well, in case we see that red message at the bottom. If we successfully add a message, we then want to get rid of that feedback. So we'll say this.feedback is also equal to null. Save that, and hopefully this is all going to work now. If I refresh, we'll have to re-enter a name first of all. This time we'll do Luigi, and we'll say, hey dude, press enter. Now it does go, and if we try to enter in a message without actually entering a message, we still get this feedback over here. But if I say now, how's it going? Press enter, then that feedback disappears. Awesome. So this is looking good. Now we're adding these messages and we can see those right here, but we still need to display them in the chat window themselves. So we'll tackle that in the next video.